All right, so it says Donna redeems a 10% off coupon at her local nursery. First of all, does everybody know what a nursery is? Not a daycare, but a flower place. Okay. And it says after buying azaleas, and then this next one, I knew it was some sort of flower, but I don't have green thumb at all. So it's a bougainvillea. It's like a pink flower. I don't know. I looked it up just because I didn't know. But does it really matter if we don't know what that means or even how to pronounce it? Not really. Okay. It's just some words there. But after buying those three things, potting soil and the two flowers, her checkout price before tax is $217.95. How much should she have paid without the coupon? Okay, so think about this. When you go to a store, we won't use coupons before, I hope, right? Okay. So how would you figure out, scratch that. What's the unknown here? What is it we're trying to find? How much the total cost was, right? So I'm going to first define my variable. What is it I'm looking for? And I'm just going to write it down so I don't forget. Sometimes we set our variable and then we have to do a little bit extra with it afterwards because that's not actually what they're asking us for. Okay. So in this case, X is going to be the total cost before the coupon. So what we have to do is we have to try to figure out how to set up an equation to represent the situation. We had our total cost, which we don't know. Then we received a 10% discount, and we ended up paying, we're going to, before tax, we're not going to worry about the tax part, $217.95. So how would you do that? If you take your total cost, what would you have to do to the discount to be able to figure out how much you paid? Not bad. We already have to multiply by a decimal, yes. Multiply by 0.10, yes, because that's 10%. But what would we do with that amount? Subtract it from the total cost. Okay, so think about this. You got your total cost, and then you're going to have to subtract out your discount, and what would that equal? That would equal what you, how much you pay, right? So let's do that. It is going to be X, our total cost, minus, and this is where we talked about the decimal. When I try to figure out how much my discount is, I take that 10%, as a decimal would be 0.10, right, or just 0.1, and I do what to the total cost? Grayson, what did you say?
Multiply by decimal.
Multiply it by that decimal, and then we're going to have that subtracted. So our 10% discount is 10% times our total cost. That lets me know what 10% of that number is. And that is going to be equal to how much we paid. And in this case, it is $217.95. Do I have to change anything with this? Do I have to multiply to get rid of fractions or anything? No, I have decimals. I have a calculator. I can do the work as I go. And some of you might not have written that like I did. It's X minus 0.10 times X equals 217. So the first thing we need to do is we need to combine our like terms. What is X minus 0.10X? If you're not sure, use your calculator. What number is in front of the first X? A 1. So if I do 1 minus 0.10, what is that going to give me? 0.9. You can just do 0.9 or you can do 0.90. And then to finish solving that, what would I have to do?
Divide.
Just divide. So what we need to do is in our calculator, unless you're real good at dividing decimals, I'm going to put in 217.95, and I'm going to divide that by 0.9 or 90. And we get X is equal to, this is going to give us the total cost. Now remember, we're dealing with money. So how many decimal places do we need for money? 2. And we're going to round up to that. So I've got 242.1666. Is that what you guys got? So we're going to go 242. Rounding, that would be 0.17. Okay. Now we let X represent our total cost. Is that what we were looking for? Is that the question they asked us? Yes, they did. So guess what our answer is? 242.17. So anytime you have a discount, it's going to be your total cost minus whatever your discount is equals what you paid for it. Is everybody kind of okay with that? This is something you can use in real life, right? All right. If I'm not mistaken, number 2 is very similar. Oh yeah, I want you to try that one. So x is going to equal my original price. So let's set up our equation. How did we do the last one? We did the original price, right? So that's x. And then what did I do? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Subtract. My discount this time is 15%. What is that as a decimal? 0.15. And that is times my original amount, the x there. And what was my new price? $125,000. Okay, so x minus 0.15x equals 125. My pen won't let me write a 0 for some reason. So I'm going to go 1 minus 0.15. That's not right. And I get 0.85. And we're going to divide. And remember, x is the original cost. So once I find x, that's one answer. 125,000 divided by 0.85. How much did you guys get? 147,058, and then 0.82. So that's the original cost. That's one answer. But they also asked us for a second answer, didn't they? How do you figure out how much you saved from the original cost? Yeah. So we take what we found as the original cost, the 147,58.82, and we want to subtract the 125 to find out how much we saved. 2 questions here. 147,58.82 minus 125,000. And that's going to give me you guys get $22,058.82? Okay. Anybody have any questions on discount problems? Your original cost minus your discount gives you what your new cost is. Sometimes they might throw in what the discount is, so you'd have to figure that out instead. So just be careful to what it says. And make sure you're actually answering the question that they are asking you. Anybody have any questions? Yes, all right, let's take a look at number 3. Read your question. We are looking for a number such that 10 less than 2/3 the number is 1/4 the number. Here it is. What are we looking for? What's it ask us to find? The number, right? So that's what x is going to be. X is the number. And again, I always write down what my x is representing so that when I go back and make sure my questions are answered, I can say, oh yeah, that's what x was. Okay, here's the key part here. We have to be very careful. This is what it's describing. It is 10 less than 2/3 the number. We have to talk about that first, okay? 10 less than 2/3 the number. So here's the question. If I said you got $20, and I said, oh, well, I've got $10 less than you. To figure out what I have, do you do 10 minus 20 or 20 minus 10? 20 minus 10. So those two words less than, when we're talking about word problems, always confuse people. Okay, when we have some number less than something else, it's the second number minus the first. Well, how would I write 2/3 the number? What are we calling the number? X. So how do I write 2/3 times the number? 2/3 X, yep. Oops, let me get a pen and not a highlighter. So 2/3 X. And then 10 less than that, what would I do there? Subtract 10. Okay, so that represents the highlighted part. 10 less than 2/3 a number is 2/3 X minus 10. What about the word is in an equation? What does that always mean? Equals. And then I need to represent the last part, 1/4 of the number. How would I write that? 1/4 X. Okay. Now, that turns into a question just like we did yesterday with fractions. First question I have for you now that we have that equation written. First of all, does everybody understand how that equation is written? Okay. Secondly, do I have variables in my denominators where I need to state restrictions? No, I don't. Okay, my variables are out to the side of my fractions, just like some of the ones we started on yesterday. And so then I need to figure out what my LCD is. LCD between 3 and 4, what would that be? 12. And we are going to multiply every piece of our equation by 12. Remember, use your calculators if you're not comfortable with the fractions. Do 12 times 2/3. Let the calculator do the work for you. What is 12 times 2/3? 8x, okay. And then 12 times 10 is just multiplying there. And then I'm going to multiply 12 times 1/4. What does that give me? 3x. Now we've gotten rid of our fractions. We can solve our equation to find out what our number is. Does it have any description of what kind of number it needs to be, like positive, negative, fraction, decimal? No, it just says a number. So whatever we get should be a good answer. Let's see. I got x's on both sides. I'm going to subtract that over. That gives me negative 120 equals negative 5x. Divide through by negative 5. And what did we get? 24. That is my number. That is what I'm looking for. If you wanted to check it out, you could plug the 24 back in and make sure it makes a true statement. Anybody have any questions? On the quiz that you'll have Friday, you'll have, I think I put a discount question on there, so like questions 1 and 2. There's a question like this where it's describing a number, and then we'll have one of each of the next 2 as well. All right, we need to read this one, and then we need to talk about it. We're looking for, it says 2 consecutive even numbers. What does the word consecutive mean? In order, right? And even numbers. So like if I'm looking for 2 consecutive even numbers, 2 and 4 would work, right? 6 and 8 would work. 12 and 14 would work. Those are all consecutive even numbers. They're in order. And we're looking for both numbers. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to represent both of them. The first number, I don't know anything about, so I'm just going to call that x. The second number, we have to think about this for a second. To go from 2 to 4, how many do I add?
2.
To go from 6 to 8, how many do I add? 2. And from 12 to 14, I also add 2. So anytime it says, when you have these word problems, if it says consecutive even or consecutive odd, okay, think about that. Some people think the odd ones throw them off, but think about your odd numbers. To get from 1, you still add how much to 3? 2. From 7 to 9, you still add 2. Okay, same thing with 13 to 15. If you have consecutive even or consecutive odd, it's going to be x and then x plus 2. If I had a third one, it would be x plus what? 4. And you had a fourth one, it'd be x plus 6. If it just says consecutive numbers, then it would be x plus 1, x plus 2. Okay, so just think about the even and odd skip a number, so we have to do 2. So we're going to let that be represented as x plus 2. We're looking for 2 numbers. We don't know what they are. We know that they are consecutive even numbers. We just have to figure out what it is. So it says, find 2 consecutive even integers such that 4 times the smaller. Which one is the smaller one, x or x plus 2? X. Okay, so we're going to go 4 times the smaller one is, what does that mean again? Equals 2 more than 3 times a number. Or 3 times the second number, sorry. The larger number. How do I write 2 more than? 2 plus. And then 3 times, what is my larger number represented as? So what should I do with that? Put it in parentheses, because that 3 has to be multiplied by both parts of that number. It's the whole number together, the x plus 2. So 4 times the smaller, 4x, equals 2 more than 3 times the larger. Keep going with it. Once you find x, remember we're looking for 2 numbers. So you're going to find x, and then the next consecutive even number is also going along with that. So 4 times x is 4x. Do I add that 2 and 3 together before I distribute? No. We keep that 2, we keep that plus sign. The only thing we distribute here is that 3. Combine your like terms. Let's see, I'm going to add that 6 and that 2 together to get 8. And I continue to solve my equation by getting my x's together. And what is my smaller number going to be? It's 8. And then what would my next number be? The other consecutive even? 10. 8 plus 2. So my 2 answers are 8 and 10. Again, consecutive even or consecutive odd, it's x, x plus 2, x plus 4, depending on how many you have. If it's just consecutive numbers, then it's just x, x plus 1, x plus 2, so on and so forth. So just be careful with that wording there. Anybody have any questions? All right, last one. Read that. Perimeter questions, sometimes they use triangles, sometimes they use rectangles or squares, okay? We just have to be aware of what shape we're dealing with. What does it mean to find the perimeter of a shape? Yeah, what do you do with the sides? You just add them all up, right? So let's start with this. How many sides does a triangle have? 3. So I personally like to draw pictures, and look, I am not an artist. That is not a very good triangle, but I like a visual thing so I can look at it, so that when I go to work, my equation out, I have a picture to look at. It says one side is 11 inches. Okay, I'm just reading the question. If one side is 11 inches, does it matter which side I say is 11? No. Okay, so I'm going to just label one of them 11. I think I'm missing some. Do you guys have? I might be missing part of my question. Hold on. The other side. Another side, I can't talk this morning, is 1/5 of the perimeter. Oh, what are we looking for? We're looking for the perimeter. You guys let me skip. X is going to be my perimeter. I'm sorry. How do I represent 1/5 of the perimeter? 1/5 x, yep. And then the third side is 1/4 of the perimeter. So how would I represent that? 1/4 x. All right, and what did you tell me? How do we find the perimeter? Add up all the sides. So I have one side is 11. One side is 1/5 x. one side is 1/4 x, and that is equal to my perimeter. And what did we call my perimeter? X. All right, take a minute and finish that. Get rid of your fractions. Don't forget to multiply every piece of your equation. Once you solve for x, that is the perimeter. What would my common denominator be for 5 and 4? 20. So we want to multiply everything through by 20. Make sure you multiply every piece of your equation by 20. 20 times 11 is 220. What is 1/5 times 20? 4. And 1/4 times 20? And then don't forget the 20 times that single x has got to also be done. Let me ask you a question while I'm letting people continue. If I were to get a negative answer here, would that be okay? No, you can't add up lengths of a shape and get a negative number, right? You can't have a negative length or negative distance or anything like that. So just be careful with what kind of numbers you get. I'm going to combine those two. I'm going to move my 9x over to my 20x. 20 minus 9 is 11. We're going to divide by 11. And what is my perimeter going to be? 20. So on the quiz, we'll have, I think, if I remember correctly, I made it like 2 weeks ago. We'll have one discount question, one find a number such that, one with the consecutive numbers, and then one perimeter problem. Okay, so those will be the 4 types of questions you'll have on your quiz.